Good afternoon. This is Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois podcast with Arlan Sudermann from Kansas City for Stonex. Good afternoon. How are you today? Arlan, and welcome to join us for this morning's show, my friend.
Cesar, I'm glad to be able to be on the show with you and look forward to our conversation.
Can you tell to the audience about this grain market for all of this reports and crop tour in Midwest?
Yeah, the grain markets have really been focused this week on the crop tour. The Pro Farmer Midwest Crop Tour has been crisscrossing through the Midwest. They had two branches of the tour, one starting on the eastern end of the Midwest in Ohio, the other starting in the Northwest in South Dakota, which curled down into Nebraska and then over into Iowa. And the two sides met last night in southern Minnesota to compare notes, and they provided us some valuable information about the crop. I don't pay as much attention to the actual numbers that come out of the tour. There's varying degrees of skills of the people present and being able to calculate yields. And frankly, some of the crops are a little bit premature to be estimating yields. And on corn, they're all assuming the same seed size. I believe they use 90,000 seeds per bushel. But it does give us our best look at the market, at the crop that we've had. I think this tour has taken on added importance since USDA quit walking the fields and sampling the fields a few years ago. And they don't do that now until their September report. So I think this Midwest Crop Tour gave us a good look at the crop. And, as I pay attention to the things that they said, the pictures that they posted, it shows us that there's a lot of good crops out there, but it's intermingled with some problem areas, particularly in eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, going up into southern Minnesota, and then some areas of storm damage we saw earlier this summer through portions of northern central Illinois. So there are some problem areas that are going to keep us from having the level of yields that USDA forecast at the beginning of the season. And we'll probably see USDA's yields erode a little bit lower from their current levels.
That's great analysis. How is the weather models in Central and includes the state of Illinois?
Yeah, as everyone knows who's been outside lately, it's been very hot over the past week and very dry. And that's been the case across most of the Midwest, and that's taking some of the yield potential off the top of this year's crops, especially soybeans. So that's a concern. Now, as we get into the weekend, we're going to see some cooler air move in, and the crops are going to enjoy that as much as we're going to enjoy it. Unfortunately, the rains that occur with this front that comes through are going to be more scattered and limited in nature. Hopefully, Illinois will be able to benefit from a few of those showers, but we're not holding out hopes for any significant moisture relief at this time. But it'll be cooler. And then as we get into next week, and particularly into turning the calendar to September, then I think we're going to see the heat come back. Probably not as hot as what we were here this past week, because it will be September and normal temperatures are pulling down by then, but we're going to see some above normal temperatures again, it looks like, probably for much of September. And then I think as we get deeper into September, we'll see moisture come back, which may slow harvest progress down a bit.
My corn needs some rain and storms for my sunflowers.
Yeah, harvest. So typically we'll put in our harvest lows at one of two times in the market, either around the time of the October crop report or sometime around the December crop report. And that's going to hinge on whether the crop is generally bigger than what the trade expects or smaller than the trade expects. So right now those expectations are being built. And I think that September crop report is probably what the trade's going to be looking at to really put together with the Pro Farmer Tour to confirm what is the size of the crop. And if the trade feels like they have a confident feeling of what the size of the crop is, then we'll probably see an earlier low to the market sometime in the early to mid part of the harvest. But if the crop seems to be getting bigger than what the trade anticipated, then we tend to see that weakness go right on into the month of December.
How is the corn market and beans for today?
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of strength in the corn and soybean market today, and that's generally because being led by soybeans largely, and that's because of the concerns of about a tight balance sheet. The market today was really worried about a lower yield from Pro Farmer. They're worried about this weather giving us a lower production estimate from USDA in September, and they're worried about that balance sheet tightening up. So that's why soybeans are really the strength of the market. We did see corn kind of follow, but not with a lot of conviction. I think longer term, this market is going to now start shifting toward more concern about the demand side of the balance sheet. I thought maybe that would wait until we got to October or November, but it seems like the market's starting to get wise to the fact that export demand is really soft, and USDA's feed usage estimate for corn is probably too high as well, considering that we expect beef production to be down about 7% in 2024, below this year's levels, which are already down 4 to 5%, and that hog production looks weaker in the year ahead as well.
How are things in the livestock market and hog markets?
Well, we finished the week on a positive note in those two markets, but they're stronger right now in the cattle market than they are in the hogs. We were starting to see some cash cattle trade established late today, kind of all at once, late morning, around 178 in Texas and more than 179 in Kansas. And last week's average for this area was about 178.5. So kind of steady to mix from last week's trade. In the north, though, it was down a couple of dollars where feeders were taking advantage of some strong basis opportunities. The packers have been tightening up and slowing down the chain speed, and that has been tightening up supply. And we saw a good push on product prices as we came into the end of the week, and that helped support the cattle market late week. Hog market, we also saw a positive push on Thursday to the product market, and that helped us finish lean hogs a little bit better. And the packers have really been taking advantage of some good packer margins for hogs, and they've been pulling large slaughter totals through this week, probably around 2.5 million head. But yet the product market is starting to hold up. That's a positive.
would you like to go to be telling the farmers with calls and options for the grain market into the harvest season?
Well, I think it's going to be very important after having several years of good prices to really focus on protecting the equity in our farm. There's a lot of different tools that can be used in the farm operation to protect that equity or to try to reduce your downside price risk. And that's going to be a concern as we go forward over the coming year. I think, particularly if corn supplies grow as much as we think. For soybeans, that's still a little bit of an unknown, but my greatest concern is corn. And there are some over-the-counter products out there that many grain buyers can offer that allow you to put a floor underneath of the market while allowing still some upside price potential. But I think the real key is going to be watching your input costs with fuel and fertilizer costs, seed costs, and trying to focus on the margin between those input costs and those grain prices, and wherever possible, work with the people that you do business with to try to lock in acceptable margins when you have the opportunities to do so.
Thanks for coming along with us for this afternoon. You're welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you, Caesar. I've really enjoyed it.
This is Arlan Sudermann from Kansas City for Stonex. Remember that trade is risk of losing or gain in the market. You've been listening to Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. I am your host today. I would truly appreciate you do subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. Thanks for listening to Back Roads of Illinois podcast.